What is up, America? Tony from the Real American Outdoors here, and today we're going to be smoking some pork spare ribs. Alright, so we got our spare ribs out of the package here. So the difference between spare ribs and baby back ribs is the part of the pig to where the ribs are located in. So spare ribs are located toward the belly, which is where your bacon comes from. So that means they're going to be a little bit bigger with a little more fat content, as opposed to your baby back ribs, which are typically toward the spine by where the loin and where the areas of pork chops are. So they're less fatty, and they also cook faster, so these will cook a little longer. And then if we'll flip it over, as you can see, like the actual rib bones are pretty much from this section here, and then you have your little back or little extra fat here, and then this area here is there's no bones. This is where you get rib tips from, especially where you're from Chicago. You probably have heard of rib tips. This is the meat of where those are located. And then you also have right here located is what is commonly referred to as a breastbone, because these are where the actual rib bones stop. So we're going to trim this up a bit, kind of do a little bit of a St. Louis cut, which is where you kind of rectangle these ribs off, and then we'll season them up after that. So we're first going to start by removing the little breastbone here. And then we're gonna get rid of that. And then we're going to save this meat, kind of cook it on the side, little snack. But just going to finish trimming up. Not get rid of too much fat. Alright, next thing we're going to do, regardless of whether you square them up or cook them whole or whatever kind of ribs you're making, always remove the membrane. So we're just going to take a little paper towel and remove the membrane from the back of these ribs. Alright, so now we have these trimmed up, a little bit of squared off St. Louis style cut. Now let's get these seasoned. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my little mixture of, this is apple cider vinegar and applesauce in a little spray bottle. And we're just going to give it a good spritz. Flip them over. Do the same. This is going to be our binder for today as opposed to using mustard. Now, first thing we're going to do is hit it with, this is just some store-bought kosher salt. Just gonna light coat it, nothing too heavy. This is gonna help the meat sweat and get that flavor. Alright, so we're gonna let this sit for about 15 minutes. And then while we do that, we're gonna go fire up the smoker. Alright, it's been about 15 minutes, so now we're going to hit it with my homemade sweet heat rub. Use this a lot for pork, it's got a little heat, but a lot more sweet compared to my regular pig rub. So we're going to give it a nice coat of this. That salt we put on is definitely made the meat sweat, so it's going to easily absorb all these flavors we're adding to it now. Add a little more here. Alright, cool. Almost out, so we're going to have to do a video on how to make that. So we're just going to let this rest for another 15-20 minutes while the pit gets up to temp, and then we'll put it out in the smoker. For today's cook, we're going to be using our Kingsford charcoal briquettes. We're also going to be using a little hickory, and our biggest wood flavor we're going to be using is apple, since apple is kind of our flavor profile. So our coals are almost done heating up, so let's get them on the smoke. Alright, we got our fire going here. For our water pan, we're going to be using all apple juice today, and as you can see, we have our ribs on the smoker. I had those excess meats a little seasoned up with my pig rub, so we're just going to cook those and have a little snack later with those. So we're cooking at about a pit temp about 250 degrees. After every 30-45 minutes, we're going to be giving it a spritz with some apple juice and apple cider vinegar mixture. So we'll see you then as we finish off these ribs on the smoker. Alright, so here it's been about 45 minutes and this is how we're looking. So we're going to give this a little spritz. Nice coating, get that moisture back in there. Gonna spritz our little extras over here. Alright, we're gonna throw this back on, get it back up to temp, throw some more wood on, and then about an hour we're gonna wrap them. Alright, we've smoked it for about 2 hours now. We got the color, we got the texture we want, and a little bit of bark. So now we're gonna wrap it, and then first thing we're gonna do when we wrap is give it a little more spritz over apple cider vinegar and apple juice. We're not really going to worry about the back side, but I'll just spray a little down there. Get a nice coating on top. Alright, next we're going to be, instead of using traditional butter, we're going to be using some nice apple butter from a local apple orchard mom and pop place. We're going to give it a nice healthy coating of this apple butter. You can really smell the apple from both the ribs and this apple butter we're applying here. Just give it a nice coat. Because we did a good job of setting in our dry rub from the start, it's not going to really take off too much. Alright, and then last we're just going to add a little more of our sweet heat rub. Not a ton, just a little more of dust up top. Then we're going to wrap this up, throw it back on the smoker for about another 2 hours. And then you can see what our little scraps look like. We're just going to eat these now because these are about done for a little snack before dinner time. So let's finish wrapping these up and let's get them back on the smoker. Alright, we got our ribs wrapped up back on the smoker. We're going to keep rocking at 250 degrees. We're not going to add any more wood chips because we're not wanting to hit it with smoke since it's wrapped. So we're just going to maintain temps for about another 2 hours, and then we're going to pull them to glaze them. Alright, next we're going to make our glaze, which our glaze is just some apple butter and barbecue sauce mixed together. And we're just going to put it on our smoker just to heat it up. Don't want to put it on a cold glaze. We want to make sure it's warmed up, so we're going to make sure that gets nice and warm, and then in about 20-30 minutes we're going to glaze our ribs and unwrap them. Alright, so we're going to unwrap our ribs here and glaze them. So now we're going to take our glaze and just glaze them on. See, we got a ton of drawback on these bones here. Now we're getting toward the end. They're just going to throw a little more dust on the top. Let this go for about 20-30 minutes or so. Get a better look on the camera angle here. Nice drawback. 20-30 minutes or so. Finish these off. See if we got some steaks for the little side dish up there. So we're about to finish off these ribs and we'll get them on the cutting board. Hey guys, as you can see, our ribs are done and now we're going to cut into them. But before we do that, let's recap what we did here. So we did our binder was our apple cider vinegar and apple juice mixture. We used kosher salt and waited 15 minutes, and then we hit it with our sweet heat rub. We then put it on the smoker for 2 hours at 250 degrees with some applewood and a little hickory. At 2 hours, we wrapped it. We applied our heavy coating of apple butter, stuck it on for 2 hours at 250 more degrees, and then we took it off the smoker, unwrapped it, and then we glazed it with our apple butter and barbecue sauce mixture glaze. As you can see, we got great pullback on the bone. That's how you know it's done. And then once we did that, we are letting it rest for a few minutes, but now we're about to cut into it. And as you can see, it is very tender, really easy to cut through, not even putting that much effort here with the knife, just going up next to these bones. As you can see, look at our beautiful smoke ring. As that focus, nice and tender, juicy. This is going to be a great bite. Let's flip these over, finish cutting from the back side. Yeah, really good picture. Look at that juice coming out right there. Perfect doneness, comes right off the bone when you bite it, but the rest of the rib does not. Tastes great. So thank you all for watching. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure to also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Also check us out, RealAmericanOutdoors.com.